Six Nations is back this weekend and it's getting serious. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Round 4 of the Six Nations. Some very interesting games on this weekend as well. Strange enough, we're starting with probably, I think most people would agree, the big game of the weekend. But still, I think every game has something right in it. Something that's great about this competition. Even into the 4th round, teams are still kind of scrapping for position, etc. And, looking at the way the standings are as well, like the results of this weekend, could completely decide the competition or could just throw it back into chaos again. And that's what I think we love about rugby, is just that kind of unpredictability of it. We won't know until the Sunday's game is done, where we basically stand in the actual championship itself. So that is brilliant. So what we're going to do as usual is go through each of the games and talk about what's actually going on in terms of where the games are on, what happened last year before, the odds, and then a few talking points about each of the games as well. But first of all, we'll start with the fixtures. So let me pull those up here from the official site. So first game of the weekend on Saturday, 8th of March, is Ireland versus France. This is at 2:15 kickoff at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. And if you're watching in Ireland, it's on RTE live broadcast. So yeah, as I said, probably the big game of the weekend. Then next on Saturday, Scotland versus Wales at Scottish Gas Murrayfield. It's a 4:45 kickoff. And if you're watching in Ireland, it's on Virgin Media. And then the final game of the weekend, Sunday, 9th of March, England versus Italy at the Allianz Stadium in Twickenham, 3 o'clock kickoff, and on RTE if you're watching in Ireland. Okay, so those are the fixtures. Now let's talk a little bit about each of the games themselves. So we start with the first game of the weekend. So Ireland versus France, as I said, Saturday, 8th of March 2025, Aviva Stadium, 2:15 kickoff. So last year it was France 17, Ireland 38, and in 2023 Ireland 32, France 19. So a bit of kind of breathing room in Ireland in terms of both of those games, but each of those games as well had kind of periods where France were on top, and if they hadn't just been able to kind of keep going with that, it could have been a different story. So just because the finishing margin looks comfortable for Ireland, I don't think the games themselves were particularly comfortable. Like Ireland, I think especially the 38-17 one, I think Ireland put on a few points at the end there. But France against Ireland, always a difficult game. The odds for this game then kind of I think reflect that. Ireland 7-6 on favourites, France 6-5. So basically, as a non-favourite, 6-5 is as close as you're gonna get, to being even monies. Then the draw is 25-1. So bookies, not sure which way it's gonna go, and you have to suspect that a lot of that money going on Ireland has kind of swung the odds a little bit in their favour as well on that. So let's talk about Ireland. So big thing come out during the week. Peter Manny, Cian Healy and Conor Murray all, announcing that they're going to retire from Ireland duty at the end of this Six Nations. And I think Conor Murray is actually going to head over to France to play. So fair play to him. Deserves, I think, the end of his career, a bit of a payday. And, brilliant servants to the Irish cause. I think I read somewhere between them, something like 372 caps between the three of them. That is absolutely amazing. Cian Healy, obviously the record cap holder for Ireland, and both Peter Mann and Conor Murray, well over 100 caps as well for Ireland. So, and we've seen it in recent years. They haven't been kind of first choice, but they've been there and an integral part of the squad, in terms of bringing experience from the bench, but also experience within the squad as well, and bringing on younger players etc. And Keane Healy, I think especially, has kind of been almost our lone backup to Porter at loose head, and now we are starting to see some players coming through there, and he's been doing his part as well in terms of bringing them through. And I'm sure even when he's done playing for Ireland, he's still going to play a part in that, because he's been around for so long, got so much experience, and he seems like the kind of guy that is willing to share that as well with others. So I think that's excellent. Going to be missed out of the squad, but also it means that younger players going to get that vital game time ahead of the next World Cup that is really needed as well. And when we think about it, like back row, there certainly are some options there, but there's a lot of players kind of who've been doing well at the provinces, haven't been getting as much game time for Ireland as maybe that we would like to see. So I think there's gonna be a lot of players rotated through the summer and then into the November tests as well. There's going to be a lot of players, I think, rotating through that back row to see who the players are that are really going to be more regulars in the squad. And then with Keane Healy stepping down, you can definitely see probably like Porter's going to be, I'd imagine, away with the Lions this summer. So a lot of the kind of the newer guys then are going to get a chance to tour with Ireland during the summer. And then Conor Murray, the thing is, like, other than Conor Murray at the moment, especially with Craig Casey out injured, you think, like, who's the backup to James Gibson Park at the minute? You have Murphy over in Connacht doing well, like moved away from Leinster to go get game time. I think that was a brilliant decision from him, and it really has done in the world of good as well. Then you got Doak up in Ulster, who this season especially not very convincing there, right? And then so you're looking at then who else is there? There are a few younger players, but they're only kind of coming into the provincial teams at the minute. So, they're maybe under a season away from, potentially putting the hands up for Ireland as well. So there is kind of a bit of a void there that has to be filled. But I think, with Conor Murray moving on, it means that there will be these younger guys now rotating into the Ireland squads to get, some more experience at a higher level as well. So, fantastic servants to the Irish game, and they're all going to be missed, but I think it's a good time for them to move on. But the last home game, so hopefully they get a really good send-off there. Then the other thing, that on the opposite side of things, something that really annoyed me this week, is Gary Ringrose available for the game. And I love Gary Ringrose. I think he's a fantastic player, but I don't, like, even as a Leinster fan, I do not believe that he should be available for this game. He got a 3-game ban, and basically RFU, said to the disciplinary panel, oh, well, Gary Ringrose, would have been released for, Leinster's game at the weekend because he wasn't seeing that much game time with Ireland. And we all know that's not true. We all know he wasn't going to be playing, for Leinster last weekend. So to do that and to reduce his ban by a week, so that he obviously he's not available for this game, but it means he's going to be available against Italy in the last game. I don't think that's fair. I think his red card, 20-minute red card, deserved the 3-game ban that it got. And he's obviously going to go to tackle school or wherever and reduce that to 2. Maybe he's probably already done that. So it should have been this game and Italy were the 2 games. But now, instead, it's Leinster's game at the weekend and this game. And I don't think that's fair. I know it doesn't particularly impact this game in terms of, like, he wasn't going to be available for this one way or the other. But I just wanted to talk about it anyway. And also, France, it was Entimac, right, who got red carded. He wasn't allowed to use the top 14 game to reduce the number of games that he'd miss for France. So bit of like a double standard there, and I don't like the way the RFU approached it. I know, like, people say, oh, well, they're professional, they're doing the right thing by trying to reduce as much as possible. But for me, it's just a case of it leaves a sour taste in the mouth, and I don't think it's right. People can argue about, it's only a game and wherever, but I still don't believe that it was the right thing to do. I think he should have served out the rest of his ban. And if they wanted him there, in Italy, you could have travelled with the squad anyway, just not being, part of the actual game itself. If they wanted him there for potential, and it is only very much potential celebrations at this stage. But yeah, I would have preferred if they hadn't done that. Then the other thing really to talk about Ireland, like, other than we are obviously going to do previews of the games themselves with teams and stuff, so we won't get into teams at this stage, even though some of them are out. But Ireland, very changed, and France the same, but both teams kind of changed their tactics since they met last year. So Ireland, up until last year, very much going through multiple phases, keep on kind of, keeping teams on their toes and then spot the gap and go. So they would go until you made some kind of mistake in defense, and then they would exploit it. Whereas now we're seeing them trying to attack off, first phase, second phase, third phase, fourth phase, that kind of thing. And then if something's not on, then they look for a different option. We're seeing a lot of kicks over the top. We're seeing grubber kicks through. We're seeing cross kicks. We're seeing kicks to length to try and just kind of box in the opposition, etc. So not willing to hold on to the ball as much as they did last year, which means, less rucks hit, less passes made, etc., less runs made, as kind of a total, and more tackles being made by Ireland as well, because they're not holding onto the ball as much as they were. But still, Ireland kind of emerged now as kind of the long kicking team compared to any other team now in the competition, I think, whereas last year they would have been behind both Scotland and France. But yeah, kind of interesting little thing there with the change in tactics for Ireland. Then on to France, absolutely must-win game for them to keep their championship hopes alive. You're not going to lose, in very rare circumstances, certainly, you're not going to lose 2 games in this championship and end up being the champions. So, if they lose this, they're out of it, and then it really is all Ireland's to, it's in Ireland's hands after that. But France, absolutely no fear travelling to Dublin. It seems when they go to Twickenham, there is that kind of mental thing for them where other than when they smashed them, a couple of years ago, like 53 points or wherever. Generally, there is that little thing with France going to Twickenham. Is tough for them. Kind of similar to the way that Ireland have going to Paris, I think. Paris is a difficult place for us to win. Twickenham a difficult place for France to win. And then I think Ireland maybe have less of a hang up about going to Twickenham than France. And France certainly have less of a hang up coming to Dublin compared to a lot of other teams. So the fact that Ireland are at home, I don't think is going to bother them as much as maybe would do another team. So that little kind of boost you get in terms of margin, that's there for a home game, won't necessarily be as big or be there for Ireland, I think, in this one. Then, as we talked about with Ireland, France not kicking as much as they did last year, not going for length. There are like pops over the top. Dupont doing a lot more of the kicking as well. Like, he's the one going for the cross kicks now. It's not actually going out to 10 a lot now in terms of just going for the kicks. If he sees it, he'll play it, and that's why he's so dangerous. He's so good at reading the game and playing exactly what he sees in front of him. But they're not as much going for the long kicks as they were before, which means Ireland have to be very careful, I think, in that sweeping, because they've been caught out before. That their frontline defense, and then that gap between them and the back three or the back two, depending on if somebody else is up in the line defending. They've got to patrol that very well, because France will be trying to put balls in there for the likes of Bielbiari, etc., to come on to and exploit them with their pace and just with their ability as well to finish. So that's it's definitely something to watch out for. Then another thing to watch out for, again, I haven't seen the teams, and I don't think the French team is out yet, but possible 7-1 bench. We saw France do it against Italy. They brought 6 of the 7 forwards that were on the bench on at the same time, the same point in the second half as well. And that's definitely something that Ireland don't necessarily have to react to it, because they've seen it before, right? South Africa in the World Cup in the pool stages, and Ireland were able to. That was another epic game. Ireland come out on top in that one, and I think was it? No, it wasn't Easterby. It was. I can't remember. One of the coaches come out, I think, this week, and he was just saying, listen, 7-1 split, that's what they're doing. We're not going to react to that. We're just going to kind of, focus on ourselves in terms of our own preparation and picking the team at the bench that suits us, rather than kind of reacting to them and maybe going for a 6-2 split or something to have more forwards on the bench. He's basically just saying they're doing that, but we wouldn't do that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that actually plays out in the game. I think, bringing on so many forwards. And then obviously, we saw with Scotland, where Darcy Graham and Russell clashed heads, both had to go off and both had to be replaced. And Scotland had a 6-2 split, so they could bring on 2 backs. But what happened if the same happened to France? I think some of their players, some of their forwards, are talented enough and quick enough to maybe be stuck out in the wing or wherever, but it's not ideal if that happens. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually go for that. And then the final thing I think to talk about for this game is, France winning this doesn't just, resurrect their hopes of the title. I think it just blows the championship race wide open as well, because you're going to have Ireland, France and England all going into that, final round of games. And it's going to be one of these where permutations and calculators, etc., in terms of, who needs what and what happens to this and that and etc., and it would make it really exciting end to the competition. As an Ireland fan, obviously, I don't want it to go to that, but it still would make for a brilliant final weekend of rugby. In terms of then the prediction for this one, it's tough because France is such a fantastic team. But I guess sometimes as an Ireland fan, I know it's weird, but sometimes I forget how good Ireland are as well. Because I look at other teams, and I guess I'm just used to seeing my own team, right? But I look at other teams, the likes of France or South Africa, or some New Zealand teams as well. Like in the last year, New Zealand, I think, have improved a lot. Even England have improved too. And I look at those teams and think, geez, they have brilliant players. How are we going to compete with them? I think this one, looking at the last two years, I think this is going to be closer than those. But I do think Ireland are just going to edge it, and hopefully then have the confidence to go on and finish with a Grand Slam as well. There's no guarantees they're going to beat Italy. We have to remember that too. Some people, if Ireland win this, it will already be like printing up or getting the tattoos, Ireland Grand Slam winners 2025, and then going to have to eat humble pie if Italy actually turnovers over, which they've done before, but for this one, I'm going to go for an Ireland win. Okay, on to the next one then. So it is the middle game and the second game on a Saturday. So Scotland versus Wales. It's Saturday, 8th of March, 2025 in Murrayfield, 4:45 kick-off. And so last year, Wales 26, Scotland 27, very close game. And then in 2023, Scotland 35, Wales 7. The odds, Scotland 7-1 on favourites and Wales 7-1. Then the draw is 45-1. So definitely, the bookies think, Scotland are heavy favourites for this. You can't really blame them, given, other than the performance against Ireland, how Wales have played over the last year. As well, probably thinking like Scotland, they need a reaction now, given what happened against England. And that's going to be, one of the big motivators for them. But one thing I would say, about that is kind of, again, Scotland remind me of kind of a, kind of early, like 2000-ish, like 2000s kind of thing, before like Ireland won the Grand Slam 2009, right? Well, up to that kind of period, Ireland were very similar to this Scotland team, where you looked at the team and thought, okay, you got Keith Wood, you got Brian O'Driscoll, you got Paul O'Connell, Ron O'Gara, etc., right? Dennis Hickey, Tommy Bowe, whoever, right? You got plenty of talented players in the team, but they're not consistent enough. They don't perform enough. And too many of their good results come as a reaction to a poor result. I think that's where Scotland are at the moment as well, is, I'm expecting a good performance from this simply because they lost against England. I think if they'd won against England, this might have been a real banana skin for them. I might still be, but I think that just in terms of focus, there's going to be more focus from them, because they lost against England. And that's something that, it's very hard to change that within a team. Like, it took Ireland years, and we were only able to do it, like, especially that going back to 2009 and that kind of period. We were only able to do it for a short period at a time. It took a very, very long time for Ireland to actually bring through players who had a different mindset, who were able to, other than World Cup quarterfinals, I'll give you that one, right? But, other than that, be able to perform, consistently over extended periods of time. And I don't think Scotland are there yet. I think that's the next step that they need to go to. But I'm not sure whether they can do that under the current head coach, honestly. But talking more about Scotland, so championship is gone for another year. So now it's about how high they can finish, and finishing, they would hope, with a win in this one and then go and surprise France over in Paris as well. But if they lose this one, then Townsend, I think, is going to be under huge pressure then, especially, we talked about it last round as well, the whole speculation of, Franco going from Glasgow to Wales as potential next head coach. And then, Scotland looking at it and thinking, no, well, we thought he was going to be our next head coach. And they might just pull the trigger on that if Wales beat Scotland in this one. They might think, it's like Townsend, he's got us playing some fantastic rugby, but it's not winning enough. And that could potentially losing this game could cost Townsend his job, I think. But whatever happens in terms of, the result, they absolutely need to be more clinical than they were against England. Created lots of chances against England, but, right at the end, couldn't finish them off. And, I don't think, again, Scotland, another team like France, who decided that they're not going to kick as much as they were previously, and it's not working as well for them, I feel. Like a lot of those kind of situations that they got, if you look at, like, go back to like Duhan van der Merwe's, wonder try against England, where he ran through half of their team, right? It came from the fact that there was like a kick from Scotland returned poorly from England because of the pressure Scotland were putting on, and because it was a tactic from Scotland to kick like that. That's a lot of their, that kind of broken field or mismatches and kind of misaligned defenses, etc., were coming from that tactic of kicking well and forcing the opposition to kick poorly to one of your threats. And they're not doing that anywhere near as much this year. They're one of the least kicking teams this year, whereas last year they were pretty much the team that kicked the most. Themselves and France were pretty close. I think Scotland came out on top in terms of meters kick and number of kicks. So, but for them, reducing the number of kicks hasn't seemed to have had a positive impact on them. I think it's had a negative impact. So something maybe they need to revisit in terms of what they want to do. I think part of it is because when you look at the back line now, you have Russell at 10, you got Jordan at 12, and then you have Kinghorn at 15. So you got 3 playmakers, in the back line. So maybe they want to put it through the hands a bit more. But you have to remember as well, you got 3 guys, there who can potentially kick the ball as well, in terms of finding decent grass, putting up contestable kicks, etc. If you've got somebody like Kinghorn, a full back, put up, a big Gary Owen, he's going to be able to get there. He's got the frame as well to get up ahead of other players, and just slap it back on the Scotland side. You have that then, kind of a little bit of chaos from that. The ball maybe bounces, but if they get it in hand, then there's going to be gaps in the defence. It's something that they're not doing, and probably they should be, I think. So a big test for Scotland coming on to Wales then. Such a positive vibe around Welsh rugby after that Ireland performance. It's great to see as well. Didn't like seeing Welsh rugby in the doldrums. Whatever I think about Gatland, let's set that aside. It's, for me, when I think about rugby, obviously watching the game, enjoying the game, etc. But I also kind of think about the fans of the other teams. Are they enjoying it? And it's, I know what it's like to be in that position where, the rugby's on at the weekend and you'll watch it, and then your team lose and maybe lose badly, and then you don't want to even hear the word rugby for another week. And then the next game comes around and you get a little bit excited and maybe think, oh, maybe this week is going to be the time. And then it doesn't happen, and then you don't want to hear about rugby for another week again. That's not a good place to be as a rugby fan. We want all of the fans to be excited. Not everybody can win, but you want it to be a case where your team at least put in a performance, right? And that's what Wales did against Ireland. I think that's why there's such a positive vibe about them. They got in, Matt Sharrett there, temporarily. He came in, had a brilliant impact, after like a week or whatever of preparations. He's now had a bit more time with the players. He wasn't involved in Cardiff's game against Leinster, so he was just focusing on the Welsh squad, and I think that's going to really, really help them as well. It doesn't mean that, just because they perform well against Ireland, that they're going to do the same against Scotland. It's a journey, right? It might be a poor performance against Scotland, and then they might come out and just absolutely shock England with how well they play against them, right? But the thing is, they're now on this journey, and there is some positives there. You have, players coming back into the squad, or players coming into the squad that weren't in the squad before, etc. And there is kind of, everybody seen that light at the end of the tunnel, and I think is brilliant. And something to think about as well is if they get the same start as they did against Ireland, or like that middle portion where, they were, they had a decent lead against Ireland, and Ireland came back over the top of them. Against Scotland, if they get into that position, they might feel themselves that they have it within them to maybe kick on and go on and win the game. Now the thing is, Scotland are a fantastic team that if they're behind, you can't just count them out. If they're like a couple of scores behind, it doesn't matter all that much, except for, it seems, against Ireland, that Scotland scored 2 or 3 tries in a 7 to 10 minute period and suddenly turn the game on its head. So that's something Wales have to keep in mind as well if they do get a lead too. But I think a lot of Welsh fans now are going to be looking at this as let's put in another decent performance and maybe make Scotland work for the win. But also there's going to be a little bit of optimism there. We might actually go there and turn them over. Scotland haven't been brilliant this year, and we have the chance now to go there and maybe expose some of the weaknesses that they've shown through this Six Nations, and just play a rugby, enjoy a rugby, and see what happens, right? But I think Wales, it doesn't matter whether it's this game or the England game, I think they will be looking to win, to get a win in the last two rounds. Not just, and I don't think it's just about avoiding the wooden spoon. I think it's just, breaking, funnily enough, I think breaking that losing streak doesn't feel as important anymore. When Gatlin was there, it was everything, right? It was like record losing streak, 14 defeats in a row, 15 defeats in a row, etc., right? That's what it felt like. It was just, that's all it was. And it seemed like it was going to be never ending, right? Whereas now you feel like with the positivity that's there, the win is going to come. Whereas before it was like, how is this team ever going to win another game? Right? It kind of was the feeling you would get. But now, I think that the win is definitely going to come. They will be looking, as said, to win one of the last two. May not happen, but if they get decent performances and then they go off to Japan then at the end of the season, they probably, will, even with a young team, probably get a win over there. It might be that Japan win one of the games as well. But this sequence will be broken, and whereas before it was a case of under Gatlin, I don't think so. So lots of positivity for them, but it's still going to be a tough one, I think, for them to beat Scotland. So I'm going to go for a Scotland win, but I think it could be similar to last year, where Scotland win just by a score, and maybe as well both teams might actually get bonus points in terms of tries as well. So hopefully an exciting one in that one. On to the final game of the weekend then, Sunday game. So England versus Italy on Sunday 29th of March 2025 at the Allianz Stadium in Twickenham, 3 o'clock kickoff. Last year Italy 24, England 27, so coming very close, the Italians last year. Then 2023, England 31, Italy 14. So the last time they played in Twickenham, a little bit more comfortable for England and kind of held them at arm's length as well for much of that game. And the odds kind of reflect that as well. I think England 20-1 on, the firmest favourites of the weekend. And then Italy 16-1, the draw 66-1. So let's talk about England first. So narrow win over France and Scotland. So the good thing about that is you look back to November, lots of narrow losses, right? They had one narrow win last year against Ireland in the championship as well. But then it felt like close games they couldn't win. And now they won 2 on the bounce. So, that's definitely a positive. But I think out of this game, the England fans, they're not just going to look at the result. They're going to look at the performance. It's not just about a win. It's about what was the performance like. Are we going to see some proper attacking rugby? Because you can see elements of it. We've seen flashes of it against Ireland, especially where you can see that there definitely is an ability, to attack, move the ball, and get some decent gain line, make some line breaks, and score some really good tries. But the other side of it is, I think, you look at the defence, and there's plenty of opportunities for opposition teams. France created lots of opportunities, couldn't take enough of them. Same with Scotland, created opportunities, couldn't take enough of them, right? So the defence is the problem really for England. But for this game, I think fans are going to be focusing more on the attack. They want to see the attack purring. Finn Smith in there should be able to get them going. I think Italy, they can play some decent stuff, but we saw against France, when things are going wrong for them, the heads go down in that Italy team, and that's a massive problem for them. And England, if they do get a decent start, get maybe 2 or 3 tries in kind of round about the 30-minute mark, it could be a long afternoon for the Italians. If Italy, though, can kind of keep the game tight, again, it's going to be a different story. But looking at this, England, after this game as well, depending on the result in Dublin, they could be in the driving seat for the championship with a win on this one. Because then, possibly they're going to be either like at the top of the table or tied at the top of the table, going to the Principality in the final round, knowing that if they can get a decent win there, they could actually come out with the championship. So I think a lot riding on this for England. Also, we got the whole Marcus Smith debate rolling on. I have seen part of the team that's come out, so I know where he's picked for the weekend. But there's that debate about him now. He's just going to keep on going and going. I talked about it before as well with when George Ford was there and when Owen Farrell was there too, is that the new guy comes in, everybody wants to see him, and then after a while, then he's the guy that's holding the team back, and people want to see the other guy. So Finn Smith is now the other guy that people want to see, and some people want Marcus Smith, some people don't. So that's a kind of an interesting dynamic there as well. And then the final thing from the England point of view, just kind of an individual player thing. Jamie George is going to win his 100 cap in that game, and fantastic. Like that guy, he was Dylan Hartley, right? He was behind for a while in England, goes on a Lions tour, starts all 3 tests, and then suddenly he's number 1 for England. And around that period, that guy was fantastic. He's kind of old school in terms of, like, he's no Dan Sheehan, right? In terms of ability around the pitch and being able to play as another centre kind of thing or back row. But in terms of actual hooker, scrummaging and line out throws, the guy is fantastic. He's top drawer. So well done to him on 100 caps at the weekend. Then on to Italy. First of all, got to produce a reaction after that drubbing against France, conceding 70 odd points. It's a throwback to the World Cup in the pool stages where they completely capitulated against both France and New Zealand in those pool stages. Didn't give us any sniff of hope of causing an upset in those. And once things went against them, again, heads go down, defence goes out the window. And, that game against France, yes, France were the better team, and France should have probably put it, high 40s to maybe low 50s in terms of points. But the fact that Italy gave up, blew it out by another 20 points, I think. And that's the problem for them, right? Is you got to look at what's going on in terms of that. Like why, when things are going badly for them, is there no kind of fight or heart in them? And it's very difficult as well, because you look at the players, that the players aren't thinking, okay, well, oh, here goes again, we're just going to give up, right? They're still trying to make the tackles, etc. But it's a collective thing where, like, the performance drops a few percent, right? And at this level, that's all that matters, right? A few percent down from maybe your maximum. And suddenly the opposition find things a lot easier, and that's what happened against France. So we're expecting a performance from them, certainly in terms of just reaction to that. Then the next thing to talk about is they've never beaten England before, so I think that's part of why the odds are where they are. England against Italy at Twickenham, England win. Also, when they played them in Rome or anywhere else, England win, right? But especially at Twickenham, it's going to be tough. Italy have had some absolutely atrocious afternoons in Twickenham before. There was the whole who was a Bergamasco playing at 9 experiment that went horribly wrong. Is one of the ones that pops into the mind. But they've had some very difficult times over there. So they've got to produce a reaction. Again, probably most people not expecting them to win the game, but they don't want to see them getting absolutely hockeyed again. So they definitely got to fix that. And then the other thing for them as well is when they beat Wales a couple of rounds ago, I'm sure. Well, I would be guilty of it, certainly. And I think a lot of Italian fans and other neutral fans as well will be thinking that they beat Wales, they avoided getting the wooden spoon this year. I think that was what everybody was thinking, because everyone was thinking Wales is so terrible, they're not going to win. They're not going to win against anyone else in the Six Nations, not even come close. But now Wales' performance against Ireland and its performance against France means that that's not as certain anymore, right? So that's something that's going to play on Italy's mind as well. Is they've got whether they're going to win games or not, they probably feel like they got to get something out of the games, or there's a losing bonus point or try bonus point. They got to get something out of their last couple of games against England and Ireland. So there's extra pressure on them there from that as well. That Wales could cause an upset, be it against Scotland this weekend or England in the final round, and suddenly now Italy, having had a fantastic start to the tournament, will end up with a wooden spoon, and maybe a wooden spoon they feel they don't deserve. But if they perform the way they did against France in the last 2 rounds, even if it's only one of those 2 games where they get absolutely trounced again, and they end up with a wooden spoon, then from my point of view, I think it will be deserved, because you're looking at it in terms of the whole championship then, right? And if you're producing two performances like they did against France, then I would say, no matter how bad Wales were in the first 2 rounds, you're probably the worst team in the tournament at that stage, right? But it's not necessarily going to happen. Like, Wales still have a lot to do to win their games, but Italy, they got to find something out of this, right? And they've got to get themselves to a point where they come out of this Six Nations looking at the positives more, and kind of just parking that French result and just saying that was just an aberration. Look at how we did. We came back against Scotland and did really well against them. We beat Wales. We gave England a tough game at Twickenham, and then potentially knocked over Ireland in the last game, because everyone was just assuming Ireland were going to win, something like that, right? Or even if they don't beat Ireland, but they make them really work again for the win, I think that would be a decent tournament for them. So interesting dynamic again this game, but again I've got to think that England never lost against Italy. They have England are good. England deal with confidence better than certainly teams like Scotland. And I think better than Ireland as well. Maybe not like kind of, I think similar level to France. Like England, France wins give them confidence, right? And they seem to kind of breed on that and multiply and actually get better on the back, but not always. But I think England and France deal with being favourites a lot better than Ireland or Scotland. Ireland are getting used to it, but still, again, look at World Cup quarterfinals, right? Still not quite there at the level I think that England or France would be. So England being favourites coming into this, not going to bother them at all. And I think given that, and given some of the stuff that we know they're capable of, I think England are going to win this one. And it's probably going to be more of a similar margin to 2 years ago. So like, maybe 2 scores or more at the end, rather than kind of the close one that we had last year. Okay, so that is the preview for the games. As I said, we will do individual previews tomorrow and Friday when we have all the teams out, etc. And then we'll do reviews of the games over the weekend as well. Okay, so looking forward to chatting with you again. More rugby stuff from them, but let me know what you think down in the comments.